It's not an unreasonable question to ask. Would you pay $140,000 for a Kia? Well, I've driven the EV9 and I can tell you the answer is yes. You're watching Four Wheels in the Seat. I'm Alex Dalrymple. This is my channel where I review new cars every week. You don't want to miss an episode though, so please do hit the subscribe button down below, the notification bell, and if you enjoy the video, give me a like. The EV9 is the largest, most expensive Kia you can get, and it is quite a sight. I mean, it's big, it's boxy, it's 5 meters long, 2 meters wide. It's sort of a mixture of Land Rover and Land Cruiser, and it is undeniably eye-catching, especially in this signature ocean blue matte color, which is straight out of the factory. I think it looks awesome. And wow, you can't take your eyes off this big, aggressive front with a blanked off front area here. The headlights here are vertically stacked LED cubes that really do turn day into night, or night into day, even for that matter. Surrounded by LED driving lights that start at the top here and kind of swoop their way down, and that's sort of become a bit of a Kia signature look across all of their new cars just lately. Side on, and check out these massive 21-inch wheels. They are just gorgeous. I love them. There are no wing mirrors on the EV9. Instead, we have two wing cameras mounted on both of the front doors. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but you'd be surprised how quickly you do get used to it. The door handles here sit flush with the metal when the car is locked. As you can see, they pop out electronically. It's a very cool little feature. We've got roof racks up on top here, darkened privacy glass. At the back here, I really like the LED tail light design coming down at a few different angles there. Big Kia badge. And underneath the powered tailgate, well, we've got a lot of storage. Even with all 3 rows of seats up, you get 333 litres of storage space. Knock down the back row, you can expand that to 828 litres. Knock down the back 2 rows, 2,318 litres of storage space. And underneath the bonnet is, well, not much. We've got a small frunk, I think it's about 50 litres. The EV9 can also move backwards and forwards by itself. Now, this is mostly designed for Asian market cars where car spaces are very, very small, but if you want to show off to your friends, you can quite easily do that too. The interior of the EV9 is just as amazing as the outside. Interior car design does honestly not get much better than this. In front of the driver are 3 screens. We've got 2 12-inch screens, one for the infotainment, the other for the digital instrument cluster, and a small 5-inch screen in between them, which is your climate control screen. The software on the center screen is the latest and greatest Kia software, and that's being rolled out through Kia's top spec cars progressively, and now includes wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. There is a 14-speaker Meridian sound system, which is just epic. It sounds so good. Next to that is the 5-inch climate control screen. That's pretty easy and straightforward to use. Moving down, we've got USB-C ports and a 12-volt outlet. And then we've got this big open storage space, which would be perfect for a little bit of shopping or a big handbag. There's loads of room there. Under the roller door, we've got a couple of mechanical cup holders, wireless phone charging here in the middle, and really no center bin to speak of because we do have this massive area underneath, so you probably arguably don't really need it up here. But there is one slight little problem. Listen to that. I'm sure it's not meant to be like that, but that is quite annoying. There's another screen, of course, here in the rear vision mirror, which is connected to a camera at the back, but you can turn that on and off as you like. Directly in front of the driver is the digital instrument cluster, which is again the new version of that. There's a few different display modes. It's nice and clear, but unfortunately no maps. This steering wheel is different to any other one I've seen in any Kia. In fact, it's almost a bit of a sort of throwback to a Range Rover from the 80s or something like that. It has a similar sort of shape. I really like it. Slightly flat top, slightly flat bottom, and it just feels really good. The drive mode controls are actually on this steering wheel, as well as the terrain mode controls, and the Kia badge here in the middle actually lights up in the dark, which is a nice choice. Speaking of interior lighting, it is always on in this car and always visible even in daytime. It's nice and bright. You can go through a million different color combinations, but it does make for a very nice atmosphere here in the EV9. Some more controls over here on the door for the seat heating, the seat ventilation. There's also massage control for the driver, as well as steering wheel heating control here too. And then we've got more buttons for the windows and all that kind of stuff. These actually look a little bit sort of BMW-esque to me. They might have borrowed their design a little bit, but that's okay. The seats are leather, as I mentioned, they're heated and ventilated, full electric adjustment. There's massage for the driver. In fact, the driver's seat will fully recline, allowing you to have a bit of a nap in your car if you're waiting for it to charge. And I really like these headrests. They're sort of like a mesh kind of finish up here on top, and it's really sort of nice and soft and almost bouncy. Like a lot of new Kias and Hyundais, the gear shifter for the EV9 is actually here on the steering wheel column. And look, I don't particularly love these. They do take a little bit of getting used to, but unusually, the power button for the car is also on here as well. Well, this is my first time sitting in the back of the EV9, and it honestly feels quite limousine-like, to be honest. It is very comfortable. We've got privacy shades here that roll up out of the door. There's a separate zone of climate control back here, which is operated by these controls up here on the roof. Vents also up here on the roof. So there's nothing much really going on directly in front of the passengers. USB-C ports in the back of the front seats. Armrest with cup holders, nice view through the twin sunroofs in this car, and plenty of legroom too, nowhere near the seat in front of me, and I'm 190 centimeters tall, and yeah, loads of room. The carpet here on the floor feels nice and plush as well. The seats are a little bit sort of buttons are heated. To access the third row of seating, you just push the button up here on the top, and everything just falls forward. Easy access. Or at least easy for small people. And if I put this seat back, this actually isn't too bad. I know this seat is probably a little further forward than it would normally be, but for me, look at it. If I was on a very short trip, this would be actually kind of acceptable. There's actually enough headroom. There's a USB-C port back here for third row passengers, as well as cup holders. And look, really, I have sat in worse third row seats than this one. If cars like the EV9 are representative of where electric cars are going, then sign me up, because this is just so good. It is so much fun to drive. It's so dynamic. There's so much power. It's comfortable. The technology is brilliant. I mean, what's not to love? And for what is a large SUV, although in America, interestingly, they call this a mid-size, it's got 7 seats. There is a lot of go. Like, there is no shortage of power. Those 2 electric motors really do make this thing get along very quickly and very nimbly. Like pretty much all new Kias and Hyundais, the suspension was tuned in Australia, so it is really very capable on our potholed and bumpy roads. It just handles them so well. And hand in hand with that goes just the overall refinement. It is very quiet and smooth in here. I mean, it feels like a European SUV. There's only just a little bit of artificial electric motor noise when you're traveling at low speeds, and that's more just to alert those around you that you're nearby if they haven't spotted you. Is the EV9 a turn-back car, a car so good looking that you have to turn back and look at it after you parked it? I think it is the very definition of turn-back car. Not only do I turn back and look at it after I parked it, but I've noticed so many heads craning around to look at it as I drive past, and in traffic, other drivers giving it a sideways glance and people crossing the road in front of me. It is such an eye-catching, unique design, and it just works. It looks so good. The driving position is also pretty good, but there are 1 or 2 things that are just a little bit weird. My knee, for example, gets very close to the gear shifter here on the steering column, and the steering wheel itself does block the view of the climate controls, so I can see them, but it's just not really all that clear. The headrest, as I mentioned before, is just a little bit too far back for it to really be comfortable, and this is such a nice feeling headrest. I just want to rest my head on it all the time, but my head just feels just a little bit too far back for it to be a natural driving position. The steering wheel has full electric adjustment, reach and height adjustment, so you can, with a bit of fiddling, get the perfect position, or as good enough as you can in this car. Maybe I'm just built weirdly. Oh, and got to remember to turn that massage function on too. Yeah, whole body massage. There we go. That's nice. With the drive modes, there's a few to choose from: Eco, Normal, Sport, and you can design your own with My Drive. And then there are a few terrain modes of snow, mud, and sand. So the EV9, certainly in this all-wheel drive configuration, can do some light off-roading, plus there is also a 2.5-ton braked towing capacity. Because this car is quite nimble and drives really well, you actually forget that it's as big as it is. And it's only when you sort of turn around and look behind you and it looks like you're driving a bus. I mean, the 3 rows of seating in this car, it's a 7-seater, and you forget just how large it is. So under the bonnet, not really under the bonnet, more at the bottom of the car, are 2 electric motors, one on each axle, and together they output 283 kilowatts of power and 700 Newton meters of torque, which propels this rather large SUV to 100 k's per hour in 5.3 seconds. On a full charge, you can go 505 kilometers, and charging to 80% takes around about 24 minutes at a high-speed charger. The EV9 has serious road presence. I mean, having been driving a tiny little Kia Picanto last week and feeling pretty well ignored on the road and pushed out of the way in some instances, it's almost nice to be back in a big car where people get out of your way and make room for you when you want to merge. The fingerprint sensor down here on the lower console is an option. You don't need to have it on for the car to work, but it does add an extra layer of security. It allows you to turn the car on. It also sets up all of the settings to each individual driver, and you can also put the car in and out of valet mode. Of course, the downside of having a great week with an EV9 is that getting into a petrol car next week is just going to feel a little bit old-fashioned. Like a lot of new cars, the EV9 has over-the-air updates, and one of the best updates they've made since this car was launched was the ability to mute the endless amount of beeping that these cars do with their speed sign recognition. Anyone who's driven a Kia or Hyundai recently with that system on would have noticed the incredible amount of beeping that goes on whenever the car thinks that you're going over the speed limit or there's a speed limit change. The problem with this system is that it often gets the speed limit wrong. It'll either miss a sign, or you'll be driving through a school zone on the weekend and it doesn't know that it's the weekend, so it'll beep at you anyway. Fortunately, they have pumped out an update where you can mute that sound without turning off the speed sign recognition system. All you have to do is hold down the mute button for about 3 seconds here on the steering wheel, and the beeping stops. The downside is you do have to do that on every trip, but it is much easier than going through the center screen and going through endless amounts of settings to change it every time, which is what you used to have to do. So thank you, Kia. Front of the driver, there is also face detection. Now, it's not as scary as it sounds. It's not Big Brother watching you. It's merely keeping an eye on your eyes to make sure that you are keeping your eyes on the road. And if it detects that you're distracted looking at something else, there's a bit of beeping that goes off. That kind of beeping I actually don't mind so much, and there are also beeps to alert you to any approaching red light or speed cameras. I think it's safe to say that the EV9 is one of the most eye-catching cars on the road. It really is the perfect blend of art, science, and technology. But it doesn't come cheap at $106,000 and $139,000 for how you see it here. But you know what? I think it's worth it. It's hard to think of another car that puts all those elements together and does it quite as well as this.